The bill said I owed almost $6,000. I read it twice. Then I folded it up, put it under the register, and went back to making a sympathy arrangement for a customer. My name is Elena Morales. I was 42 and owned a small flower shop. The business paid my bills, but there wasn't a pile of extra money sitting around. A few months earlier, I had needed medical care. I had insurance, so I thought the biggest part had already been handled. Then that bill arrived. My first thought was that I had two choices: put it on a credit card or agree to whatever monthly payment they offered me. I didn't know there was a third choice. Before I paid anything, I could make sure the bill was correct. That one decision changed the amount I actually owed. When that bill showed up, I didn't question it. I assumed the number was right because it came from a hospital. That was my first mistake. I had insurance. I had paid my premium every month. I had shown my card at every appointment. So when I saw almost $6,000, I thought that must be the part insurance didn't cover. I didn't know enough to think past that. I just knew I didn't have $6,000. The flower shop was doing okay. Some months were better than others. Weddings helped. Valentine's Day helped. Mother's Day helped. But flowers are not a business where money just piles up. I paid rent on the shop, utilities, supplies, delivery costs, payroll when I had help. Then I paid my own bills at home. There was not some secret account waiting for a medical bill. I sat behind the counter and looked at the credit card application on my phone. I almost used it. The interest rate was terrible. I knew that. But when you are scared, bad choices can start looking practical. Before I applied, I called a friend who worked in a medical office. I expected her to tell me to ask for a payment plan. Instead, she asked me one question. Did you compare the bill to your insurance statement? I didn't even know what she meant. She told me to find the explanation of benefits from my insurance company. That is not a bill. It is the document that shows what the provider charged, what the insurance company allowed, what insurance paid, and what they say the patient may owe. I found it online. The numbers didn't match, not even close. The hospital bill showed charges I didn't understand. The insurance statement showed adjustments I couldn't find on the bill. There were separate charges from different departments. There was one charge listed twice. At least it looked like the same service twice. I didn't know whether it was an error, but I knew enough to ask. The next morning, I called the billing office. I was nervous. I thought I needed to sound like I knew exactly what I was doing. I didn't. So I kept it simple. I said, I received this bill and I need an itemized copy showing every charge. The person on the phone tried to summarize the balance. I told her I wanted the detailed version, procedure by procedure, service by service. I wrote down the date, the time, the person's name, and what she told me. That became a habit. Every call, every name, every promise, every reference number. A few days later, the itemized bill arrived. It was several pages long. There were codes, abbreviations, and charges that meant nothing to me. But now I had something I could compare. I checked the dates, I checked the services, I checked the insurance statement. I circled anything I didn't understand. One charge appeared twice. Another services was listed on a day I had not even been there. A lab test appeared under a different department with a separate amount. I did not accuse anybody of fraud. I called and asked them to explain it. That matters. You don't have to be an expert. You just have to be willing to ask what every charge means. The duplicate charge was removed. The charge from the wrong date was reviewed and corrected. Then I learned that one part of the claim had been denied by insurance because of the way it was coded. The hospital had billed me for it. That was the part that surprised me. A denied claim does not always mean the patient automatically owes the full amount. Sometimes the provider needs to correct the claim and submit it again. Sometimes the insurance company made the wrong decision. Sometimes more information is needed. I called the insurance company. They explained the denial. Then I called the hospital again. The hospital corrected the coding and resubmitted the claim. That took weeks. Nothing about the process was fast. I had to follow up more than once. But eventually, insurance paid part of the amount that had originally been sent to me. The bill dropped. It was still more than I could comfortably pay. That was when I learned about financial assistance. I had always assumed those programs were only for people with no income. That was not true. The hospital had a written assistance policy. Eligibility depended on income, household size, and other factors. I asked for the application. It wanted documents, tax returns, proof of income, bank information, household details. I almost stopped right there. Running a small business made my paperwork messy. My income was not the same every month. Some months looked stronger than others. I thought they would see that I owned a business and assume I had money. But owning a business does not mean having cash. So I filled it out. I included everything they asked for. I added a short letter explaining that the shop's revenue was not the same as my personal income. I explained my regular business expenses. I kept copies of everything. Then I waited again. The hospital approved a partial reduction. Not the whole bill, but enough to matter. By the time the corrections, insurance reprocessing, and assistance were finished, the balance had dropped from almost $6,000 to a little over $1,700. That was still real money, but it was not $6,000. If I had put the first number on a credit card, I would have paid interest on money I never actually owed. That thought stayed with me. The original bill looked official. It had a due date. It had instructions. It had a number that scared me. But official looking does not mean final. After the balance was reduced, I asked about a payment plan. The first amount they offered was too high. I told them what I could realistically afford. I did not promise more than I could pay just to get off the phone. We agreed on a lower monthly payment, no credit card, no high interest, no new debt following me for years. I also asked whether the account would be sent to collections while I was making payments. I asked for the agreement in writing. I had learned to stop relying on a friendly voice over the phone. The people I spoke with were not the enemy, but I needed documentation. That experience changed the way I handle every medical bill now. First, I compare it to the insurance explanation of benefits. Second, I ask for an itemized bill. Third, I check the dates, services, and charges. Fourth, I call the insurance company about anything denied or unclear. Fifth, I ask the provider whether the claim can be corrected or resubmitted. Sixth, I ask about financial assistance before I reach for a credit card. Then, after the balance is clear, I talk about a payment plan. That order matters. Before, I would have started with the payment plan. That would have meant agreeing to pay a number before I knew the number was right. I also learned that not every unexpected medical bill is treated the same. Some situations may fall under federal surprise billing protections. Some do not. You still have to check. You have to look at whether the care was emergency care, whether the provider was in-network, whether an out-of-network provider was involved, and what the insurance company says. I learned not to assume. I learned to ask. The hardest part was not the paperwork. It was getting past the feeling that questioning the bill made me difficult. I was raised to pay what I owe. I still believe that. But paying what I owe starts with knowing what I actually owe. Those are not the same thing. I did not refuse to pay. I did not ignore the bill. I did not throw it away. I slowed the process down long enough to understand it. That saved me thousands of dollars. It also kept me from turning a medical problem into a credit card problem. The flower shop stayed open. I kept paying my regular bills. I made the medical payment every month. It was not easy, but it was manageable. That difference gave me room to breathe. The bill still mattered. It just stopped controlling every decision I made. Now, when someone tells me they got a medical bill they cannot afford, I do not tell them to panic. I do not tell them to put it on a card. I tell them to start with the paperwork. Find the insurance statement. Request the itemized bill. Check every charge. Ask questions. Apply for assistance. Get the final amount before agreeing to pay it. Because the first number on the page may not be the final number. Mine wasn't. Once I knew the bill was right, the payment was manageable, and my flower shop was safe, I could breathe again. Please like the video and subscribe to Broke to Breathing for more informative stories like this one.